One. Hey, my fabulous friends, and welcome to this week's episode of the Real Estate Power Playbook. I have the ultimate real estate power player in the house, my friend Dirk Zeller, all the way from almost sunny Tucson, Arizona. Yay, Dirk, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thanks for inviting me. Delighted to be here and really looking forward to this.
I am very excited for all that we are all going to learn from you as we sit at your feet today. You've written 11 books, but the first one that I became aware of that you sent me after we met was Success as a Real Estate Agent for Dummies. Let's start there. Uh, yeah, and now I feel everybody leaning in, whether they're driving or on their Peloton, or like, ooh, I want all the success secrets. I want the magic bullet. I want the magic pill. Dirk, give us the magic pill.
Yeah, so I guess maybe that would describe me, not the OG, but the OD, the original dummy in the real estate industry.
I love it.
And in fact, the first listing presentation I ever did, I was so nervous and I was so, over prepared and hyped and just totally focused and, knock on the door and go in and start working on my presentation and delivering my presentation. And, probably 8, 10 minutes in, this guy stops me. And because I was calling him my name, and he said, "Hey, just so you know, my name is Jones. My name is not Smith. In fact, Mr. Smith lives 3 doors down." Well, I had transposed the numbers of the address.
Oh
I
no.
was sitting in the wrong house doing a listing presentation for the wrong guy.
Oh my sorry.
So again, that's why I always say I'm the OD of real estate, because the ultimate dummy, the original dummy, let's call it, rather than the OG. Now, the good news is I picked up my stuff, went down and secured the listing. And I got to make a real presentation to Mr. Jones about 6 months later and got his house listed.
Yay! I was going to say that's called
So it
rehearsal.
worked out.
Yes.
It worked
I,
out.
I love it. So tell us, when was that? When were you new in real estate?
In the dark ages. 1990 was the year I got licensed.
Yay! And
So way, 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 way long ago.
oh my gosh. Well, that means you're very you have wisdom gained from experience at this
Yeah.
point.
Well, and here's the truth, Cheryl, and we both know this, right? And one of my favorite books of the Bible is Ecclesiastes. And because Solomon was certainly one of the wisest and wealthiest people ever to walk the face of the earth. In one of the verses, it talks about there is nothing new under the sun. Well, here's the truth. He's right. There's differences in technology and all the different things that we have in real estate, but hey, if you can't personally communicate and you can't sell and you don't have great time management skills and you don't handle objections well and all these different components that are foundational skills for this business, the fact that you're great at reels is probably not going to make up for it when you get face to face with the prospect and the rubber meets the road here in convincing somebody to do something. And again, sales is about persuasion. It's not that we're going back to 70s sales skills and tie downs and all the different things that were taught in the dark ages, let's call it, of professional selling. But ultimately, selling is about persuading somebody to do something that's beneficial for them, not for me, the salesperson, right? But for the client to do something beneficial for them, to convince them, to help them avoid their anxiety about that, to persuade them to do something that's beneficial to them or to do it quicker, faster. Again, being the benefit to them overall. we're in this environment where people are sequestered in their houses because they have a very low interest rate, yet they really need a different house for themselves, for their family, for more space. We're going back to traditional reasons of why people buy and sell. And so there is some persuasion in terms of getting them to understand the benefits of that move for them and to weigh it all out, because it is going to be more costly for them, most likely. But what is the value to their family of being in the right house, in the right place, creating the right family memories? And if it was like my older brother, who is a year and 8 days older than I am, beating the hell out of each other every day, that when we were sharing a bedroom in our younger years, right, peace in the house, separating those two kids in their own bedroom, probably was worth about any amount of money to my parents that it possibly could be.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes to all of that. And I had to mute myself because I was laughing so hard that my eyes started watering when you were talking about, bless their cute hearts, agents who are good at reels is not necessarily going to translate into persuasion in the living room, trying to convince the seller to go with you rather than your competition. And,
Right.
having
And obviously we have to be good at video. We have to be good at marketing and effectively getting our message and our brand out there. I'm
yes,
not diminishing that. Certainly, we have to generate leads in a lot of different formats and a lot of different ways today. But ultimately, when the rubber meets the road, it's still a personal services business. We're selling our personal representation services. And that's even more so in this post NAR Sitzer world, let's call it, than ever before. And my other prediction for your audience is the value of a listing is even more today than it has historically been, because there is a section of consumers that are going to shop listing agent direct because they assume that they're going to save money. So as a listing agent, you're going to get more leads than you used to get from those listings. And we've even seen it with our clients in terms of the traffic volume that is increased pretty significantly since the settlement at open houses. Because consumers are wanting to shop on their own, some of them, not all of them, but some of them. And they know the word is starting to get out that they have to sign a buyer agency contract or a touring agreement or whatever the heck you want to call it to get in to see that house with that Zillow agent or whomever else it is. And they're starting to shop on their own, go out and look at open houses at a greater degree. We're seeing traffic counts increase. Now, that doesn't mean you want to hold everything open. You've got to view that open house as your storefront for the day, and you have to pick the best storefront that you possibly can to generate the largest flow of traffic of high quality buyers overall. It's not because the seller is whining about their home hadn't sold and you put your shingle out there on that particular home that may not be a good open house. You're not doing it to placate the seller. You're doing it because you're Walmart for the day in the high traffic area with people coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going back in time. I started in 1999, and honestly, I don't remember when you and I met, but I was very grateful for that. And you sent me a copy of Success as a Real Estate Agent for Dummies, and I actually sat down and read it. And I remember it was early in my career. And I remember reading that you said, don't become emotionally attached to the outcomes, for your clients. don't become overly attached to the outcomes of any sale. And I remember like, cartoon Fred Flintstone, coming to a screeching halt. And I thought, how am I going to do that? Of course I'm attached because I only have one. And you go on to explain it. I believe that was one of your biggest mistakes, to becoming emotionally attached and financially attached to the outcomes of any of those sales, because that's very tough to do when you only have one at a time.
Right. And that's, or you have an insufficient lead flow to be able to. Sales is an odds-based business. I don't care what you're selling. It's about odds, and it's about probability, and it's about having enough of a certain something, leads primarily, that you can accept the odds of the foundational game. And the wants and needs, whether that's your client's wants and needs or your individual wants and needs as a human being or a salesperson, or hey, I got to make my my mortgage payment for my house next month and I've got nothing in escrow and I don't have anything in savings. My individual wants or needs don't change the odds of sales.
Amen.
And my client needing $500,000 for a $400,000 value property doesn't change the odds either. Right? Well, I really need to net. Well, okay, that's great. And I'm not saying I'm not empathetic to their needs, but at the end of the day, that doesn't help them if I leave them in that $500,000 mindset and don't change their mindset and understanding, because I have a 0%, and they do too, a 0% chance of getting 500,000.
Correct.
I mean, I can do the best marketing job on the face of the planet and create the best exposure for that property, and advertise. And I grew up in Oregon, and I was listing and selling in Portland, Oregon. I can advertise for that dumb Californian buyer. That's what an Oregonian would always say. Oh, we just have to find one dumb Californian to come up. Yeah, right. So they've got 2 suitcases full of their stuff. One suitcase is full of money, and the other suitcase is full of stupid. And that's what our strategy is, to try to get your home sold. I mean, come on.
Yes, and being from California and living in Utah, which is one of our largest lead sources in terms of migration, influx of buyers in the state of Utah, is from California, and they don't call them dumb Californians. They call them they call it bags of cash from California. And and they're not stupid, which is really funny. And that sounds like a great story for your book on success for dummies. I have so many questions I want to ask you. Let's start with when you wrote the book originally. When did you originally write this book? I believe it's in its 4th edition right now.
Yeah, 4th edition just came out in the last 4 months, I think.
Wow.
Which is pretty rare for a book to get into the 4th edition of a book. I think I wrote the original probably in 2003 or 4. So yeah, it's been a while.
It has been a hot minute. And so with all of these additions, what do you see as a constant in terms of, and something that has absolutely not changed, that is fundamental and foundational for an agent in any state to be successful?
That's a great question, and I could go a number of different directions on that. But here's one you probably didn't expect, but really is true. Time management is still the biggest problem for most agents in real estate, and most entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
And the reality of it is, especially in the real estate industry, we have a small handful of things that we can do that make us a tremendous amount of money, right? Pay us a lot per hourly rate in terms of the activity of that.
Mhm.
And then we've got this whole host of massive voluminous things that I would describe as production supporting activities. They support the production of the sales or the sales effort or the lead generation effort. So you've got, you know, what I'd call direct income producing activities. Other people call them dollar productive activities. I mean, there's a whole bunch of terms, but really, if you're doing specific and definable lead generation, it's a high value activity. If you're following up on your leads, it's a high value activity worth a lot per hour. If you're face to face with a buyer prospect doing a consultation, or you're face to face with a seller doing a listing presentation, you get paid a lot for those hours that you're doing. If you're writing and negotiating contracts, that's a high value activity. If you're engaged in personal development, whether that is going to seminars, looking at webinars, right, listening to podcasts like yours, or in audio university in your car, or any of the things, reading a book,
Mhm.
that's a high value activity where you're developing your greatest asset in your business, which is you.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, and any of those can pay you 300, 400, $1,000 an hour, $1,500 an hour. There's the rest. Right now, you could talk about marketing and marketing reach and strategy being in the direct income producing activity as well. I think there's evidence for that. But all the other stuff that we do that really probably occupies 80% of our day for most agents
Mhm.
is $25 an hour work.
Mhm.
And so the development of time management and activity management and the leveraging, and it doesn't mean you have to leverage with people and build a massive behemoth team, but I can pay a transaction coordinator, as an example, 350 or $400 for a transaction to really manage and oversee the transaction and do most of the transaction management work, which is probably, takes up a good 8 or 10 hours of my time. And if I invested that time into lead generation, I'd have an exponential return.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, if I invested 10 hours in lead generation, I'd probably make 15 to 20 grand from that time because I'm pretty good at it and skillful at it. And I can get rid of 10 hours for 350 bucks. Where do I sign?
Yes.
Right. And all the other stuff. That's still the biggest challenge today. Now, has technology helped on that side? Yes. Has it eliminated that side? No way.
Mhm.
No way. And there is the issue. And I didn't come up with this. I will have to admit, I was very, very blessed. My father was a dentist, and one of my favorite things was watching him work. I would peek around the corner from his lab, watch him in his offertories working between patients. He didn't waste his time. I mean, he was always in somebody's mouth drilling, filling, and somebody else was billing. Then he wasn't really even doing fillings much. He was doing gold crowns because a filling back in that era was 80 bucks and a gold crown was 800. He could figure out which was more profitable for him. Not that he wasn't, doing what was best for the patient, but he really believed in exceptional dentistry and doing it permanently and doing it for all time, so to speak. And in that era, that was the fix in the 60s, 70s, and or early 80s. But that was, I mean, all of his time was that, not the other stuff overall. And I think as an entrepreneur or business owner, especially, that's tasked with the primary sales function of running your entrepreneurial business and selling your product, you've got to manage your time and make sure you're billing out 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day to that other side of the ledger. And that's what attorneys do. I mean, they're trying to bill 7 to 8 hours a day to somebody, whatever they charge, $500 an hour, $1,000, whatever it is. They're trying to bill somebody for that time. They're not doing the administrative functions and the legal lookup functions and blah, 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 right? They're meeting with clients and they're working on clients' problems and challenges.
Absolutely. Yes. 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 So much to all of that. And I thought of 3 things, and now all of a sudden, all 3 of them just went out the door. But I love the consistent thread of the issue for most agents and entrepreneurs being time management. And I feel like today we have more distractions available to us than ever before. And I feel like that is a real challenge for agents, especially new agents getting into the business, looking at all of these shiny objects and thinking, oh, I need to become a TikTok star or get my own reality TV show in order to be successful in this industry. And that is absolutely not the case.
No, it's not. And I mean, one of the best technology features is probably the on-off button on your phone. Because
yes,
you don't get many calls or texts that say, hey, Dirk, come out and list my home now. I mean, it's mainly a bunch of distractions and people trying to sell you their latest, greatest invention in the real estate industry that delivers you leads with no effort whatsoever or skill. They're out there everywhere.
Or health insurance. If we're in the real estate industry,
right.
like 6 times a day, I get a text about health insurance. But yeah, we should be the healthiest people on the planet.
Yeah, you've got to minimize distractions and still obviously be available for opportunity. But it's interesting. Earlier today, and I'll just say this real quick, I was working, editing and writing, and my son bops in the door and he goes, Dad, what are you doing? And I go, well, I'm getting interrupted by my son, who I love very much, but you need to understand, son, by the time I get back to where I was before in my thought process, you just took 5 minutes from me. And I love my son. He's 23 and he's temporarily here. But it was a distraction. And we have those all day long, not coming in our door, but coming through the phone, coming through the internet, coming through everything.
Agreed.
And, I was on a deadline. So it was like, yeah, this is not a good time, Wesley.
Not a good time. We should put up do not disturb signs, because I am so much the same way. And you, having written 11 books, yeah, and I'm at the tail end of my 4th. When I just was having the darndest time getting my first one across the finish line. This was in 2018. I had given everything to my editor. I was so excited, and she came back to me and she said, yeah, chapter 1 is great. Chapter 2 is a little bit less great. Chapter 3 is a little bit less great. By the time you get to 6, you're at 20% of the content that you had in 1. You need to spend more time writing. And I thought, I can't delegate this.
Yeah, no.
I can't delegate this. So I let everybody in my family know. I let everybody on my team know. On Friday, I am going to be spending 6 hours working on my book, and I'm going to turn every device I have to airplane mode so that I cannot be interrupted by dinging and zinging and pinging and all the things. I let everybody know, if you don't hear back from me, it's not because I'm dead. I'm not lying in a ditch. I'm focused, which was a rarity, still sometimes a rarity. I kid you not, Dirk, by the time I came up for air, and to be that focused, really focused with nothing going off in my environment, I took a deep breath. I got a drink of water. I came back, probably got a snack, and I turned my phone back on. 67 texts, 67. And that doesn't even count all the emails. And I thought, my stars in heaven, no wonder I was not able to be this focused and get all this done, because I don't have the discipline or the desire to shut everything down in order to get my goals and dreams across the finish line. What am I making more important here?
Right. Right.
Thank you for coming.
Well, focus will always precede success.
Woo! Write that down,
Always.
kids. Focus will always precede success.
Always.
Writing that down.
It is not the reverse. And you know, it doesn't take an overabundance of it, but it takes a consistent amount of it on a daily basis. I mean, the compound effect is alive and well in the world today.
Yes.
And the reality of it is that most of us get so distracted and so out of focus that the compound effect never kicks in. And if you don't know what the compound effect is, it's a derivative of the eighth wonder of the world, which is compound interest. And it's in your actions and your activity and your thinking. Everything compounds, whether that is a compounding of positive proportions and out of proportions, or it's because you're doing the wrong things and the negative things. Unfortunately, that compounds as well and sends you into reverse and causes you to be way farther away from where you want to be than your effort indicates, or
I
effort creates.
Totally agree. So what I'm hearing you say is that in order for the compound effect to take effect, that there are habits that need to be in place and diligently followed through on. And you actually wrote a book about habits, success habits for dummies, and another great dummies book. And yeah, talk to us a little bit about those habits that real estate professionals absolutely have to have in order to be successful.
Well, we have to do some kind of lead generation every day.
Yes.
I think you know, it's interesting. We're doing this, and now obviously I'm dating the podcast, but obviously that's just the way. We're in the end of the football season, and I wrote this the other day, and in response to somebody online, and I said, you know, if we focused like the two teams that are left now playing off in the Super Bowl, they practiced 40 to 50 hours a week at a minimum for a 60-minute game.
Yes.
Now think about that. And they did that for months and months on end overall. Most agents do 1/100th of the amount of practice that in a year or 2 years that they do in a week. Okay, so do you want to get paid really good money in the real estate industry? You have to practice. You have to replay the tape, whether that's digitally in terms of recording yourself, or it's mentally in terms of replaying the tape of that conversation I just had with that prospect. And wow, it didn't go quite as well as I thought. I missed the block, or I missed the tackle, or I missed whatever. And the reality of it is, if you replay the tape, you learn from it, you improve from it. And the truth is, you're going to either practice by yourself or with others, right? Meaning your colleagues, and get better and replay the recording, or you're going to practice on live human beings that could buy and sell and list with you and pay you thousands of dollars, but you're going to practice either way. The only question you have to determine is, who do you want to practice on? And in what situations do you want to practice? For me, I didn't want to practice on a live human being that I could have made money from and blow it. Joan, my wife, has heard my listing presentation more than any human being on the face of the planet. When I got into real estate, I knew, because I had a sales career, that I was going to need to practice my listing presentation. And so therefore, I surmised that I needed to do a listing presentation every single day. Whether that was practice, if it was a work day, I was doing a listing presentation. Now, in the first handful of months, she heard one every single day for a number of months. By the time I was 6 months in the business, she was hearing less of them. By the time I was a year in the business, you know, she might have heard one a week, and I was on 4 with real live people. I got good.
Yeah. Given that kind of practice, you were pro level football team right there.
Right. But for many of us, it would take that long to get that good. So the question is, do you do it in 6 months, a year, 2 years, or do you do it in 20? I mean, you choose.
Yes.
Which is your time frame. But you're right, Cheryl, it's going to take you 50, 100 times through a listing presentation or more to get really good.
Yes. And to be able to practice overcoming objections and handling questions that might come up and anticipating those questions that might come up and addressing them head on. Right.
And you can do it by figuring it out with prospects, but you know, it doesn't get better faster. It doesn't kick into the compound effect, and you get it's like, I like to golf. If you go on a golf vacation and you're playing every day, you're going to get a lot better. Because you're playing 5 or 6 or 7 rounds in a week. You get your swing grooved. You really get into the rhythm of how to play golf, or how you should be playing golf. If you play once a week for 7 weeks, you'll likely not improve very much at all. Same amount of rounds, but condensing and aligning with the compound effect makes a dramatic difference in terms of the outcome.
Amen to that. And I cannot tell you, when I'm teaching at a local association, state association, in large event, I always tease the agents that always come in first and sit in the back. Always. I don't care what state I'm in, always. And it absolutely cracks me up in terms of a behavior and mindset. And so I always tease them and I say, thank you so much for filling in these seats first. You are aware these are the role play seats. And they look at me. I've had way too much Botox to register the face that they make. It is hysterical. And they're always completely freaked out. Why is it that agents are so terrified of role play and of practice and of getting in the reps, and then they don't practice on live people? What the heck is happening with the mindset of becoming a skilled performer in order to become a skilled performer and paid like a skilled performer? Where's the mindset disconnect, Dirk?
You know, I don't know that I have the answer for those back row Baptists.
The church of the, I call them the church of the back row. That's hysterical.
But I think that's hard for me to comprehend. I understand that it's rampant in the real estate industry, but I came from a professional athletics background. I played the pro racquetball tour for about 4 years in my late teens and into my 20s. I had that, you know, that mindset. I had, because you had to play the tour or to be at that level. And so it just is foreign to me in terms of why we don't see it that way in terms of practice, because obviously I practiced for 4 or 5 hours a day and and lifted weights after that and did all those things that you do. And to be a professional athlete, and especially in a esoteric sport that you were broke anyway, even if you won a tournament. Uh,
Oh no.
so I mean, but it was a heck of a good time. I enjoyed it a lot, but it was certainly not something that was going to make me wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. So
Yes, I can't help but look at my own behavior. I love to study my own behavior. One of the reasons I love the study of the Enneagram, for any of you who love the Enneagram, but having been adopted and in nature versus nurture and all of that, I really love to study my own behavior from a practicing and getting in the reps standpoint. I'll liken it to running half marathons. There are days that I don't want to do it. I don't want to get on my treadmill. I don't want to get my weights in. I don't want to do any of it. I think that going back to when I was new in the industry, I think that I expected that I would want to. And I was waiting for unicorns to fart rainbows across my front lawn before I would do it. I remember my former boss, my broker, 11 years ago, told me, you will not be successful in this industry until you master your mood and your mindset, and you get to the point where you're gonna do it, and you schedule the time and you have the discipline to do it whether you feel like it or not. And I did something that one day, shortly after he taught me that, I honestly felt like I deserved a medal, because I did something really hard that I didn't feel like doing it. And it was such a mindset shift for me. Oh, I can do the thing that I feel like I don't want to do in the moment in order to get the thing that I really, really want. Let's say I want to take my family to Disney World. That's not cheap. And now I have 14 grandchildren. Yeah, in order to not sell body parts on eBay, in order to be able to afford that, I will need to cultivate the mindset and the skill set and the discipline to do it when I don't feel like it.
Yep.
And the fact that I don't feel like it is irrelevant. Professional football players, to go with your analogy, they show up at practice or they don't get paid at this level. And so they show up and they get it done. And we need to cultivate the same kind of mindset and the same kind of discipline in order to be successful.
I think the other thing you can do, and as I was thinking about your question, this came to me. I had an addiction to winning.
Ooh. Oh.
I mean, I connected that addiction to winning to doing the things that I didn't want to do, and knowing that that addiction could be fed. And I don't mean that it was unhealthy. I mean that, one, there was nothing like it for me. And I cultivated it as a young age as an athlete, but I transitioned it into real estate. There was nothing, no high in real estate, okay, that matched walking out of the home with a listing sign. If you called me back 3 days later and said, Dirk, you got it, that didn't feel the same as walking out with it done at the conclusion of my presentation. I was addicted to that feeling, and I knew I had to lead generate to get myself in the position to get that feeling. And some of you may go, well, that's pretty unhealthy. Well, I don't know. I mean, it was a really great feeling that I went head to head with competitors, and at times with the seller, because they wanted to overprice the property, and I had to convince them and persuade them that positioning it well right off the bat, instead of way overpriced where everybody knows it's overpriced, the buyer knows it's overpriced, all the agents know it's overpriced. I mean, it's not a secret, especially in today's technology-based world, you aren't pulling the wool over anybody's eyes by pricing that home 10 or 15% over market value.
No.
I mean, we can argue a 1 or 2%, but 10 or 15, give me a freaking break. Everybody knows it's well overpriced. And any offer you're going to get is going to be fishing for the bottom, rather than you and your client negotiating from a position of strength. But
Yes.
getting back to the key point is, it felt different. And it certainly felt different when I lost. And, you know, I got the call, you know, Dirk, you did a great job. You were really great. Your marketing plan was great. And then they slide in that 3-letter word, but right, we decided to go with so-and-so. I mean, that was the other thing. I hate losing. I'm not a good loser. I admit it. I suck at losing. Okay. There it is.
There it is. Makes me
And
want
that's okay. I'm okay with not being happy about losing.
Agreed.
It forces me to win more.
Yes. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. I love it. But you did say something that I wanted to speak to, going back to your high value activities and tying that with what you just said about pricing. Friends, I want you to practice your listing presentation every single day for 6 months with your spouse, or record yourself if you want to do it with stuffed animals for the first 2 weeks. Sure. But then do it on live people who can give you loving feedback, whether that's a friend in your office, do it with and for each other every single day. No excuses. This is how you're going to get better and get in the reps. And I also want you to practice pricing. Pricing property properly, great alliteration right there, is an essential skill for you to be able to be a strong negotiator. And negotiating is another essential skill. And those are certifications that the National Association of Realtors offers that I love to be able to teach: pricing strategy advisor, real estate negotiation expert, so that agents can have the skill set to win. We want to have the skill set to win. Yep. Beautiful. I could talk to you all day, but I would be remiss if I did not get recorded for all time and for everyone to hear the story of who influenced you to start speaking.
Oh, okay. Well, I was asked to be on a handful of programs as an agent expert, not a panel, but I was presenting in about 5-6 different cities over a period of time. And the headliner of the event, the guy who sold the tickets, so to speak, was Zig Ziglar. And I got to know Zig. We had dinner almost every night before the event. So I'd fly into Seattle, and the next day was the event, and I had dinner with Zig. I, flew a number of times over the years to, did gigs in DFW and would always call Lori Major, Zig's assistant, and say, hey, I got a gig on such and such day in DFW. Is Zig going to be around? Love to take him. And Jean, his wife, the redhead, he calls her to dinner, or I'd go in early and go to church at Preston Baptist, where he would teach Sunday school. And if I had a Monday or Tuesday gig, I'd go in and Saturday and go do that. Anyway, he was just really instrumental in helping me get into the speaking business. Just a great man. Just really love him, and he passed away a number of years ago. Anyway, Zig originally wrote Success for Dummies. And so since I've written so many dummies books, I got asked to write the replacement for Zig's book. So that came out a couple of years ago. It was just a labor of love, and just really enjoyed it. And it's still to this day the best book I've ever written. Not that the others are bad, but it's just the best work that I've ever done. So hopefully I'll replace it with something else that'll be my best work, but it's still great stuff. So
I love that. Inspirational and aspirational. That is incredible. And you've spent many years successfully as a speaker. You were part of the $1 Million Speakers Group, formerly known as the $1 Million Speakers Roundtable within the National Speakers Association. You speak, you coach, you write books, you golf, all of these wonderful things that you
I'm not good at golfing. I'm good at some of the other things you listed, but I'm not good at golfing. But I love it and enjoy it. And probably because I have to put my phone down and it takes every ounce of focus for me to actually play it reasonably at a reasonable level. So
I bet you'd kick my butt. Because I have not done the work and I have not put in the reps, which absolutely feels like a theme for our time together. Another book that you wrote was your first year in real estate. Whether someone is in their first year in real estate, they've been doing this for a long time. Final words of advice for anyone listening, regardless of how long they've been on this journey.
I think the biggest epiphany for me in the last handful of years is clarity. I think it's really easy, especially in the social media world, especially in real estate, to get drawn in by perceived success and accomplishment of others in the real estate industry. And I would just tell you, be clear on what your plan is, be clear on what you want to accomplish, what you want to do, why you're doing it. Don't get drawn into lanes that you shouldn't be in. I spent a lot of time in my life chasing other people's goals and other people's accomplishments or trying to be better than somebody else. And really the game is working your plan and running your playbook based on what you're trying to accomplish in life. I mean, I got into the real estate industry mainly because I wanted to invest in real estate, and I saw that as the best angle to do it. I watched what investing in real estate did for the benefit of my parents, and you know, that was the end goal game for me. In terms and all these other wonderful things that certainly happen in books and speaking and write webinars and all the different things. But investing in real estate and creating wealth through real estate, owning it is better than selling it, everybody. I have to tell you that, because
oh yeah, baby, owning
I mean, you're selling it for the skill and the development and the income that you derive, but taking that income and investing it in real estate, that's a asset that pays you over and over and over again, can create generational wealth. My dad told me when I got into real estate, this was a great piece of advice. He said, you need to understand, Dirk, my dental practice enabled me to have the cash flow to make the investments in real estate that ultimately made me very well off and financially independent. He said, because I ran such a good dental practice, I could walk into any bank and borrow the money that I needed to make the real estate investments that ultimately created financial independence.
Wow.
I modeled my real estate business after that model of running a good real estate business that created good net profit, that I could take that net profit and invest it in the vertical of real estate. And then obviously books and speaking and seminars and all that followed. But I kept the same model of, you know, living below my means and taking the surplus and investing it in real estate. And we're on the front lines of wealth creation, friends, in the real estate industry.
Yes.
And you got to get you some, and owning it is better than selling it, a lot better. And selling it is fabulous. But owning it is 10x fabulous when you get down to it.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely agreed. Dirk, how can people find you, learn more about you, find all of your amazing books?
Well, everything's on, book-wise is on Amazon, so you can go to Amazon and get anything that I've written. My company's name is Real Estate Champions. I'm not hard to find. If you Google Dirk Zeller, you'll see numerous websites and different options to come up on the market. I'm not hidden, so.
That is good advice for all of us. And do you play on any social media platform?
I play a little on Instagram. I play a lot on Facebook because I'm older. You know.
I love Facebook too. Heaven help us all, right? But yeah. I could not agree more. Oh, my friend, thank you so much for sharing your advice and your wisdom and your brilliance with us today. I knew that you would, and you certainly did. I took 4 pages of notes. I love that. So great. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
My absolute pleasure and honor, Cheryl. Great to see you.
All right, friends, you know someone in addition to you who desperately needed to hear this episode in order to really truly start to build your own real estate power playbook. Please feel free to share, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you review us so others can find us. And we love you. We're here for you. We want to serve you. We want to help you make more money. And until we get to be together again, continue to be the magic you wish to see in the world.